Good morning. In just a moment, I will be inviting up our board president, Debbie Skirto, to welcome you formally. I would also like to welcome you and make an announcement, which is that I am not Catherine Rowlee, who was scheduled to be our lay leader this morning. She's been taken ill. She did plan the whole service and was sorry not to be here to share it with you. And one thing she did ask me to let you all know, that the photos on your orders of service are of her late husband, Jim, and their two children, Iris and Gregory. And now, Steph.
Thank you. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, and to all those who have fathers or had fathers, and to all the mothers that have had to act like fathers, and everybody. I'm Debbie Skirto. I'm part of the board here at Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Montclair, California. We welcome all the folks on Zoom joining us today. And I have a few announcements. First of all, if you were not able to read it in our Community Connections on Thursday, we have finalized and signed the lease with our new tenant for the preschool. So that is a great thing, and she will be starting to do some of her repairs and updates and everything on July 1st, hoping her licensing will go along smoothly, then that she can start bringing students in September. However, that doesn't solve all our money problems, folks. So still remember that a lot of the money that is coming from her, we gave her some reduced months, etc., is going to go for things like still to help things with the faith, just like the Faithify and the grant. That money's already spoken for. So that is going to do the electrical updates, which are finished. Yes. And the plumbing, which is the air conditioning, really, the split units in each room. That's starting very soon with Klaus. And that's very expensive. And so the money has to go towards that. And we will probably still need a little more to go towards that. You know how it always is. So don't start spending because it's not there. We still need to get anybody who has an owing pledge from 2024 to please pay it as soon as possible so we can have a little better cash flow. That's our issue. Also, Robert and Amy have been really working hard on getting the closets and all the RE stuff cleaned out and organized, and they could use some help next Sunday, the 22nd. Room 4 still has some random pieces of furniture and chairs and things like that we could use. Either people take it home if they want it, or help us get it to the trash or donate it. So after service next week, I know we have luncheon, I know we have all kinds of stuff, as we usually do. But if you're available, also, I think, is it Friday, Robert, that you're going to be down here? You could come Friday morning at 9, was it? 9 a.m. if you're available, and help with room 4. Could be a head start. They won't mind you being here. Okay, now, we have a very special meeting today after church for the Affordable Housing Task Force. They will be presenting a lot of information and be available for some questions. And that's really important. This is our next big thing that we're going to be doing. It's going to last over about 5 or 6 years. So we want to know what's happening, what the stages are. So if you can stay for that, awesome. And then next, let's see. The 13th, 13th of July, okay? Next month, we're having a wonderful fundraising luncheon, and it's going to be a sizzling service. A summer sizzling service or something. I forget, it's a lot of S's. And it's going to be barbecue, and we have a barbecue being donated by some very generous folks. And so it's a real barbecued hamburgers and things like that, plant-based and beef. And then Jeannie Coates asked me to please remind folks that have signed up at the auction for her mask making workshop. It will be next week, which is also the 22nd, after the service. And by the way, the 22nd is Choir Sunday. So it's music, and I think you'll be pleased with our selections. We're working really hard on it. So please come for the service. Please stay for the luncheon. You can see Murray to put your reservations in. And I think that's it. So I turn it over to Laura. And thank you all for coming. Oh, sorry. Oh, Bob? Oh, okay. We have a little fun thing for you. Little fun thing coming, so stay tuned.
Sorry, less than a minute. You ready? Hi, I'm Murray Smith, and I'm Murray Smith of Eat and Be Murray fame. Sometimes people also call me Mariachi because I like to make music playlists.
Well, I'm Bob Taylor, and I don't have any fancy nicknames, but I think I've done just about anything you can think of around here. Quickly.
Talk over this way.
And people call me Bob Taylor Swift.
And together, we are the Lunch Guys,
Working
working to keep our beloved MBUUC afloat during these austere times.
We are part of the FTF, or Fundraising Task Force. We organize and arrange, prepare, cook, clean, and we'll even dance on occasion to help raise money so that we can keep our sanctuary open.
Yeah, we do a lot, and it's well worth it. We love this place. We're getting ready for our next hot event. In fact, it's so hot, it's a sizzler. The Summer Service Sizzler. It's going to be on Sunday, July 13th, following the service.
There's going to be hamburgers, either plant-based, picked fresh from the garden, and beef and other delicious summer foods like potato salad, watermelon, brownies, and ice cream. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. Why does my wife call that drooling?
Don't know.
Oh,
There's also going to be a trivia contest, of course with a nominal fee attached, and watermelon eating contest, plus lots of fun summer songs playing in the background.
see Moriarty to sign up and let him know if you want a veggie burger or beef. Also, let him know if you can participate in setting up for the event or cleaning up after the event is over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. And in case that just isn't enough fun, on July 13th, we're also going to be having a Teams and Task Force Fair, kind of as a dessert course, but there will be more information on that later. Well, at this time, let's enter into the spirit of worship by ringing our bowl. We sound it 3 times. Once for those who came before us. Once for those of us here, both in person and on Zoom. And once for those who are yet to come. Our opening words are "Drawn Together" by Jennifer Grayson. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods, yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We come together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change this world. Please join me in singing "Come Sing a Song with Me," and stand or sit as you prefer. So today's service will have 3 guest speakers, Jaryus Hangan, Jack Little, and Becky Petit. And at this time, I'd like to ask Becky and Jack up. Becky will read our chalice lighting words, and Jack will light our chalice.
We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing, humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment.
Now please join me in saying the words of our covenant, which will be, we affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope, and to live out our Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus, we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Now please join in singing Spirit of Life, first in English and then in Spanish. And after we sing, our Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration will come up and share a story for all ages, Robert Tidwell.
Today's story is titled The Invisible Thread, and it's by Nathan Ryan. It opens with a quote from June Jordan. Maybe the purpose of being here, wherever we are, is to increase the durability and occasion of love among and between peoples. I don't have any particular affinity for school buses. I don't hate them. I just don't feel any kind of way about them. My toddler, on the other hand, loves them. I mean, really, really loves them. He has a die-cast toy bus, banged up and missing its doors and wheels, that he carries around with him. He looks out of his bedroom window in desperate hope that one will come down our street. For as long as he could make sounds, he would squeal with delight when he saw one. Over time, "Buh," turned into school bus. I find myself seeking them out even when he isn't around. I turn my head when I hear those distant screeching brakes. I keep fleeting mental notes of which ones I've seen and where. Why do I do this? It's not because of the buses themselves. I don't particularly care about them. I do it out of a subconscious instinct. I do it because I love my son. It makes him happy, and I like seeing things that make him happy. I have not argued with him about the carbon output of poorly maintained buses. I have not discussed the problems of overfilled, underfunded schools. I have simply grown to notice a thing that brings him joy. Doing that brings me joy. Sometimes love is simply letting someone else like the thing that they like. It's the invisible thread that tethers your heart to someone dear through something as mundane as a school bus. This will transcend my mortality. It transcends intellectual discourse. The thread between my son and I, between any of us who searches for what brings joy to another person, exists because we love. And now, if the children present can come and get our cellos, you guys can sing us to class.
At this time, we accept your generous donations. We support and sustain our beloved congregation, and we also donate to chosen community organizations. This month, at the selection of our youth, we are sharing half of undesignated donations with the Freedom from Religion Legal Defense Fund. Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. At this time in our service, we share personal joys and sorrows with each other. I didn't see any written down in the basket or any on Zoom, but we know that at this time we all have personal joys and sorrows, and let us take this moment to reflect on those and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. I said Catherine was very sorry not to be here today, and she chose for Father's Day a pastoral prayer by Rod Richards that I'd like to share with you. On this Father's Day, we recognize the vast spectrum of experience and the often complicated feelings that surround such a celebration. We honor those fathers and father figures in our lives who have loved, supported, encouraged, and instructed us, and we seek to share these gifts with others. We mourn with those who mourn the loss of a father, and fathers who mourn the loss of a child, whether separated by death or estrangement. We support those for whom this day brings pain and sorrow, who suffered abandonment, neglect, or abuse. We support and celebrate the fathers in our midst who give of themselves to their children, recognizing all the strength and wisdom and stamina and love and time and honest introspection that fatherhood requires. We support those men who choose not to have children, yet who are present in loving and supportive ways to children, youth, and adults alike. And we seek to honor wherever we find ourselves today across this vast spectrum of experience, and to feel the compassion that embraces us within this silence. At this time of the world, we also can't help but think of all of the crises that are happening. So let us offer compassion to all who are struggling in the midst of so much. Those who are mourning loved ones or who have lost things that are meaningful to them, and those that are hurting. Let's take a few breaths to calm our angry and anxious hearts and sit in silent meditation as we listen to the replay. Thank you, Lily. That helped me stop and take a breath. We're going to have 3 speakers today, Jaryus Hangan, Jack Little, and Becky Petit. And at this time, I'm going to invite Jack up to share a poem with us and then share his thoughts on fathers.
So the reading, Sentimental Moment, or Why Did the Baguette Cross the Road? Guess I should read the title before I get up here. Don't fill up on bread, I say absent-mindedly. The servings here are huge. My son, whose hair may be receding a bit, says, "Did you really just say that to me?" What he doesn't know is that when we're walking together, when we get to the curb, I sometimes start to reach for his hand. So I would like to share some of my experiences with my father and being a father. So growing up with my father was somewhat unusual. He was a physician, which meant he wasn't around a great deal. He spent much of his time at hospitals making rounds, performing surgeries, and taking care of his patients. There were times that I remember when I would spend the day with him running errands and going to the hospital, following him around or waiting in the nurse's station while he did what he had to do. And when I say following, my father was a tall man, just over 6 feet. My short stature at that age meant that I was usually in a mild jog, keeping up with him down the hallways of the hospital. I do remember one instance when I was very young, about 8 or 9, and I was at the hospital with him while he was making his rounds, Pomona Valley to be specific. And I remember things got very hectic very quickly. I didn't understand what was going on. Nurses were running frantically, pushing equipment, and my dad told me to stay where I was at that nurse's station. And he disappeared down the hallway. I'd never seen my dad run before, and he ran. After some time, a nurse in the station explained to me what had been going on. A baby down the hall had stopped breathing, and because my dad being there and the efforts that he put forth, he was able to revive the baby. And at that time in my young age, I didn't really understand the magnitude of what was going on, but at a much later age, I realized I couldn't have been more proud of my father. After that, I looked up to my dad based on those actions. I wanted my children in the future to be proud of me like I was towards my father, but it probably wouldn't be because of saving lives of children. My father was the one that got me interested in the aviation industry at a very early age. He wanted both my sister and I to become physicians such as he was. I learned that wouldn't work for me because I'd get a paper cut and I would faint. So aviation it was for me, and he fully supported me. Now, fast forward many years to 1993. Janine and I had been married for about 3 years, and she let me know we're having a baby. We were little more than kids at that age, the young age of 25, 26 years old. And I thought that was a really nice way of her saying, it's time we get our shit together. I needed to start practicing being a responsible role model for a child. I realized very quickly that my primary goal and job as a father is to protect our children, keep them safe, healthy, and teach them to be good people. Our son Hunter was born in September of 1994, and I did have to mature very, very quickly. Janine was going to school at Cal State San Bernardino getting her teaching credential, and I was working at Burbank Airport in the evenings driving from Rialto. If anybody has ever worked a night shift, you know that work-life balance can be very difficult. I made every effort to be available and part of my family while working nights, but there are things I know that I missed in my child's early years. I do remember on my days off walking Hunter to the park, pushing him in the swings, playing in the sandbox, and chasing him around in the grass. I still think about those moments, and I cherish each and every one of them. As Hunter grew older, he took on his own interests, such as reading, baking, ice skating, and arts and crafts. I did all I could to support his interests, but Janine worked better in those departments. We went to a lot of ice skating competitions, and we ate baked goods that were fair at best. He still enjoys cooking, but his skills have greatly increased. Again, fast forward to 1997. We've got another child on the way. Hunter's still alive and healthy, and I feel I had some influence in that. How difficult could another kid be? Think again. Completely different personalities between the two kids, and there were some adaptations that needed to take place in the fathering efforts. Hunter was relatively easy as far as raising kids go at a young age. Garrett, on the other hand, different story. Independent and into everything. He wanted to do everything himself, didn't want to be bothered by anybody, especially his parents. Janine and I referred to our kids as a dog and cat. Hunter was the dog. He would climb up on the couch and love the attention. Garrett was the cat. You could give him attention until he didn't want it anymore, and then he would leave. Sometimes mildly beating the crap out of you before he left, such as cats do. I remember when the boys were relatively young, I had a tendency of going to extremes with my decision-making processes. They were sometimes made out of frustration and were knee-jerk reactions. I remember an instance, we had gone camping with friends when Garrett was about 2, Hunter was maybe 5 or 6 years old. We were sitting at a picnic table and Garrett happened to throw himself backwards off of the picnic table onto his back. My immediate reaction was, we're never going camping again. This is dangerous. I failed as a father. I'm glad Janine was there to be the rational one, or we would have never done anything. So when Garrett got older, I started sharing my interests with him, such as airplanes. I recognized that he was more of the hands-on kid. He liked fixing things and building. And I remember he and I building our first model airplane together. He still has that model airplane hanging from his ceiling in his bedroom 20 years later. It makes me smile when I see it, and I see what interests Garrett has, and they were much different than his brother, and I again encouraged and tried to help develop those interests. The other day we were going through, everybody has that junk drawer, and we came across his little adjustable wrench that he had at his Home Depot toolbox. He would carry it around and we would pretend to fix his toys. He's more of the hands-on. He enjoys fixing things such as I do. He currently holds a position at a camp up in Wrightwood overseeing the maintenance of the camp, and we talk about the electrical, structural, plumbing issues, and I very much value those conversations. As I said, as a father, my goal and responsibilities are primarily keep my children safe. There are times I've failed. They got bumps, bruises, and scratches. But for the most part, Hunter and Garrett are healthy and thriving. I refer to those parts as the learning curve, both on mine and theirs. As I stated, my father was a physician and wasn't around much doing his doctor thing. But one thing that he always ensured was that we were taken care of. We had a roof over our head, we had food on the table, and very importantly, my sister and I had an education. He was a provider for our most basic needs, and I learned from those actions I observed as a young adult and while I was growing up. I wanted to provide those same things to my children, in addition to being a positive and responsible role model. It's my hope that my sons have learned from me my positive attributes and ignored or forgotten about my negative ones. And I hope they make efforts to be good people and help others whenever the opportunity arises, such as my father did in that hospital so many years ago. Thank you and happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much, Jack, for sharing that with us. Next, I would like to invite Jaryus to come out and join us. Jaryus Hangan.
Hello, everyone. If you don't know who I am, it's not your fault. I spend most of my time in there when I'm here. Hi, Hi, Zoom people. You probably recognize me as the person responsible for managing the Zoom. If you have any audio problems during the duration of my speech, you're just going to have to deal with it because there's no one in there right now. So, sorry about that. But Father's Day. I would say that my father and I have a very interesting relationship because I don't always see eye to eye with my father on a lot of things. Because my father was very much the type of person who preferred to show the way that he cared in the things and the tools that he gave me to survive the world more than anything else, right? Because my dad, one of the things that I like to tell people more than anything is that when I was very, very young, my dad made me start running track and field at the age of 5. And I continued to do so until the age of 17 when he finally decided that I could make my own decisions. But there were a lot of instances like that as a child where my father made me do things or took me places or showed me things that in the moment I don't think I really appreciated as much as I should have. As my father, he would take me to various museums around the state. He would have me participate in not just track and a wide variety of sports. He would have me, there was one particular instance where when he really wanted to educate me and my brothers about the state of the world that we lived in, he had us drive down to LA specifically to look at Skid Row and see what was going on down there. But as I got older, right, I realized that regardless of how I might have felt about those things in the moment, that my father and the things that he taught me are without a doubt very much responsible for the person that I am today and for the values that I hold. Not just because of the things that he taught me, but also because that one of the things that my father did for me as a child was to bring me here 13 years ago at the age of 11. And I can definitively say that that is one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my life, because not only did I get to meet all of you, but I got to meet a lot of people I got to go to Camp de Benneville, to their high school camp, and that was almost certainly one of the most formative experiences of my life, and I can't ever take that away from my father and the things that he did for me. So that's it.
And thank you for sharing with us. And next, I'd like to invite up Becky Petit.
My dad often recalls a story about the time he took me and my sister Sarah to a Baltimore Orioles game. I don't really remember the trip, so I was probably pretty young, but it was likely in the old Memorial Stadium. It couldn't have been an easy trip. My sister was developmentally disabled, mostly nonverbal, and she had to be watched like a hawk, or she would run off the moment she saw a friendly mascot or a cotton candy vendor. I likely insisted on lugging with me at least one, probably multiple books to keep me occupied during the game. And generally at this ballpark, you had to park quite a ways away from the stadium, and it was a trek just to get to the front gate. And of course, we had to stop at a refreshment stand to load up on snacks, again, in the hopes of keeping these kids entertained for 9 innings. So my dad's shuffling 2 young daughters, one with some physical disabilities and mental disabilities, me who's probably reading a book as I was walking, and holding all of our refreshments and things. And we're trying to not step on anyone's feet, and we think we're doing a good job, until suddenly he looks down and notices that the woman in the robe just beneath us is staring up at him as he had inadvertently dripped hot nacho cheese all down her back. Whoops. But fumbles like this didn't deter him. For several years, my mom worked night shift on weekends as a nurse in the hospital, so she was home with us during the week. That meant weekends were with Dad. So he had to keep us busy, and he did. He took us to see a local high school production of Bye Bye Birdie, and as a little girl, I felt like I was watching a show on Broadway. One day, we made a surprise trip to KB Toy Store, and we all picked out Frisbees, and we took it to a local park to play Frisbee golf. We'd never played before, and I don't think we ever played since. And I doubt any Frisbees made it into the baskets that day, because not an athletic family. But I still remember doing it, so it must have been a good time. My dad and I also had a Sunday night tradition after my sister went to bed. We made lasagna. So when my mom came home from work on Monday, she could sleep during the day, catch up on rest, and then heat it up for dinner Monday night. Part of the ritual was to watch a Gary Shandling show while we boiled the noodles, mixed up the cheeses, and layered it all together. To this day, lasagna is one of my ultimate comfort foods, even if I make mine vegan now. And I always remember those Sunday nights with my dad, and then all enjoying it together the next evening. My dad was a reference librarian at Catholic University of America's Law School, which is the school where my parents met. I really loved visiting him at work, and I always felt like a little bit of a celebrity when I walked in. His coworkers would greet me. Just felt special. I didn't always really understand his job, though. I just liked sitting behind his big desk. I played with Post-its, fancy pens, stamped things. It was very fun. So one day he came home from work, and he said he brought me a gift. And he handed me 2 books. They were the first and second editions of a Kid's World Almanac. So I loved books and I loved reading, I still do, but my taste at that time leaned more towards Nancy Drew and the Babysitter's Club, not books of what I thought of as dry facts. So I was maybe a little less than impressed, and my dad enthusiastically said, "Oh, and every week I'll give you a quiz with 10 questions, and you get to find the answers in these books." My enthusiasm probably didn't quite match his. It seemed like a trick. But I learned to use the table of contents, I learned to use the index, and I found answers in these books. And it wasn't the answers really that were important, right? I started to see the magic of the librarian, and the magic wasn't having the answers, it was knowing how to find them when you needed them. I didn't always realize growing up how lucky I was. A while ago, I kind of realized among my friends, people in my social circle, a lot of them did not have relationships or good relationships with their fathers. So they all adored my dad. They probably would have been really thrilled to have a father who sent them a birthday card, simple birthday card every year. So when my dad sent me care packages at Halloween filled with spooky treats and games, they were blown away and would gather around for the unpacking. I didn't deserve a dad any more than they did, but somehow I did get a great one, even if he does tell corny jokes. And occasionally I have to sit through episodes of the Three Stooges. But this relationship with my father, as I grew older, it started to feel a little more rare and a little more precious. Now, in my work with hospice, I sit by daughters who are saying goodbye to their fathers. And I listen to their stories and memories, which are different from mine, but they feel just as precious. They show me pictures of their young, handsome fathers, holding them as babies, beaming up at the cameras, or of their fathers dancing with them at quinceañeras, or photos of their dads who, like mine, took them to a baseball game. I'd just like to point out, too, that there are studies that show that having a daughter does increase your life expectancy by about 72 weeks. I don't know if these are peer-reviewed studies or not, but I choose to believe that they are. And I also choose to believe that having daughters also increases the quality of that time. So we're so shaped by these moments, these memories, these actions that show how deeply we are cared for and loved. Not everyone has a father, but I hope that every child has someone, an uncle, a cousin, a brother, or even a mom, who encourages them to be curious, find answers, and have fun. I hope they have memories and photographs that reflect feeling as loved, supported, and encouraged as I do. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all three of our speakers for sharing your feelings and your memories with us. You made this Father's Day service very special. Thank you. Our closing song is "We Are a Gentle, Angry People." Please join me. I think our closing words are a responsive reading, but I don't know if Jaryus has slides for this. Okay, no, all right. So that will be the chalice extinguishing words. So these are not responsive after all. We are a gentle and generous people, but let us not forget our anger. May it fuel not only our commitment to compassion, but also our commitment to make fundamental change. Our vision of the beloved community must stand against the vision that would allow the privilege of the few to be accepted as just and even holy. Our religious vision must again and again ask, who is my neighbor? And arrive always to include more and more of us. As we intone the words that gave birth to this nation, we the people, we are and we should be both a gentle and an angry people. I invite Becky back up to read our chalice extinguishing words and Jack back up to extinguish the chalice.
As we close our time together and extinguish our chalice flame, may it continue to burn brightly in our hearts, illuminating our path and strengthening our resolve until we meet again.
Now, please remain seated as we listen to our postlude, after which you're all invited to stay for coffee and conversation. And I would just like to add a special thank you to Catherine Rowley for preparing this wonderful service, even though she couldn't be here, and to send healing thoughts her way. And we will plan to gather again for the Affordable Housing Task Force information session at 11:45. So please stay and learn and ask your questions. Thank you.